Good evening, fair ladies and gentlemen of Los Gatos and all other listeners far and wide. My name is Catherine Summers, Executive Director of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening for the Chamber's first ever Council Candidate Forum. It was about time that we did this because this year more than ever, it matters who is sitting in those council seats. This is a huge election. With that, our moderator tonight is not Chris Wallace. He was a little too tired after last night's debate. Instead, we have a better one, a good friend of mine, a mentor, and an executive in the Chamber of Commerce for the last 18 years. He's also the Executive Director and President of the SVO, otherwise known as the Silicon Valley Organization, Matt Mayhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine, and it's great to see all of you tonight, or I guess probably not see all of you, but really glad that you're all here. My name is Matt Mayhood. I'm President and CEO of the Silicon Valley Organization, and we are the region's largest and oldest Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really pleased to be here to moderate tonight's Los Gatos Town Forum on behalf of the Los Gatos Chamber. And Catherine, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I am a Los Gatos resident, and I am interested in what's about to happen tonight. Like Catherine said, I am no Chris Wallace, and thankfully this is a forum and not a debate. And I think I do have the ability to mute any participant at any time. Actually, I'm kidding, of course, but tonight's forum is being recorded and will be made available on the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce website the day after the event. So you can look for that tomorrow and forward that to your friends and families, members who couldn't make it tonight. So without further ado, let me just jump in and talk about what we're going to do tonight. So here are some background and some logistics that you need to know about. So this November, there are 3 town council openings up for grabs in the election. 2 seats are with 4-year terms, and 1 seat is with a 2-year term. We have 5 candidates running for the 2 4-year term seats, and 2 candidates running for the 1 2-year term seat. You guys follow me with that? 5 candidates for 2 4-year terms, and 2 candidates running for 1 2-year term. All right, now you all know what's going on. Let's meet the candidates. I will start with the 5 candidates that are running for the 2 4-year term seats in alphabetical order. And the candidates, when your name is called, would you please turn on your video? First, Matthew Hudes.
Good evening.
Michael Kane. Larry Maggio. Heidi Owens. And Maria Ristow. Now let's meet the 2 candidates that are running for a 1 2-year term in alphabetical order. And candidates, when I call your name, please turn on your video. Mary Badami and Rob Stevenson. All right, now we got all the candidates in the picture and we can see them all. Here are the ground rules and the format for this evening. And we've reviewed all of these with the candidates before the start of the forum. So candidates will be on mute when they're not speaking and observe the rules of decorum and respect the time of other candidates when they are speaking. There'll be no interrupting and no use of vulgar or profane language. In other words, don't do anything you saw last night during the debate. Behave yourselves, all right? The candidates will be given a 1 minute for their opening statements, and those will be given in alphabetical order. And a timer will be visible for all candidates. After each candidate's opening statement, I will then start the Q&A portion of the evening. These questions for tonight's forum were conceived and selected by a panel comprised of Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce Executive Director and their Board of Directors. The audience submitted questions at the time of registration, and those were reviewed for relevancy and redundancy, and they are also included in tonight's questions. The order of the candidates for the first question will be alphabetical, and the subsequent questions will be answered first by the next candidate in the alphabet. The Q&A will be broken into 2 sections, a formal round and a lightning round. During the formal round, the candidates will have up to 2 minutes for their answer, and during the lightning round, 30 seconds. That's going to be tough. A timer will be visible on the screen, and as the timer approaches 0, we'd ask that each candidate finish their current sentence and their thought, mainly their sentence, and we'll move on to the next candidate. Again, I will monitor the timer and advise you when your time has expired if you continue to speak. I will thank each candidate for their thoughts and for their answer before recognizing the next candidate. If you need the question to be repeated, please let me know. I'm happy to do that. After the Q&A section, each candidate will be given 1 minute for a closing statement. And again, that will be in alphabetical order. All right, everybody understands the ground rules again? Nodding affirmatively. Let's get started. So our first question tonight, and again, 2 minutes to respond to this question. Now more than ever, the survival and preservation of small business is imperative. If elected, how specifically?
Matthew, excuse me, we need to do opening statements first.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? All right, that's my one mistake that I get. Let's do opening statements. And with that, let's start with Mary.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invite. I am Mary Badami, candidate for Town Council, the 2-year position. I am also business owner, planning commissioner, and patron of local business for over 45 years. I am privileged to live, work, and play in our town. Los Gatos is my home. Having graduated from Los Gatos High in 1975, my home away from home is an office located in the downtown, above a wine bar, a restaurant, and nearby retail. I provide risk management and asset protection to families and businesses. As a small business owner, I have knowledge and perspective to make decisions to enhance our economic vitality. Experience matters. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Now, Matthew.
Good evening. I'm Matthew Hudis, and I would like to be your 4-year council member because I care deeply about Los Gatos, and I have the business skills and experience in town service to get things done. I started 2 businesses in Los Gatos, and I can tell you the town is just not as receptive to business as it needs to be. As chair and then member of the Planning Commission, Historic Preservation Committee, General Plan, and 8 other roles, I've gained some idea of the challenges, but I conducted a survey and I'm holding Zoom listening sessions neighborhood by neighborhood, and I'm learning a lot. Last night we did Almond Grove and downtown, and across town, the #1 concern is post-COVID economic recovery and revival. Number 2, safety and disaster preparedness. Number 3, just getting from point A to point B in town. I have the skills to work for you to strengthen financial discipline and transparency, and I'll work to preserve the value, beauty, and character that make Los Gatos special.
Great, thank you, Matthew. Michael?
Matt, thank you for inviting me. I moved to Los Gatos 40 years ago. I raised my children here. I run a successful financial management business for almost 40 years. I know finance, and I know how to run a business in Los Gatos. I served on the boards of the Los Gatos Community Hospital. I've been a member of the Chamber forever, served on the board twice, was the Business Person of the Year, thank you guys. I served on the board of Los Gatos Morning Rotary. I am head usher at St. Mary's for about 20 years. I helped stock the pantry at St. Luke's for the homeless. I'm a veteran of the Vietnam era, decorated by the Secretary of Defense for extraordinary service. I know my town. I've been involved forever. I know my town. I love my town. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Larry?
Good evening. My name is Larry Maggio. I'm one of the candidates for Los Gatos Town Council for the 4-year seat. I'm ready to make a difference for our town, our citizens, and our quality of life. I plan to use my leadership experience along with my knowledge and passion for the town and to be a new voice for the people of Los Gatos. I'm 3rd generation to this area, born and raised in the St. Clair County, And I've been living here in Los Gatos for the last 10 years with my 16-year-old son, who is now attending Los Gatos High School. I have over 35 years of leadership experience. I've been a business owner, along with serving in the military for over 10 years, and now with the serving in the Veteran Service Organizations. And I'm also a commissioner here for the town of Los Gatos on the personnel board, and that's something that I chair right now. I absolutely love this town, the charm, the citizens, and everything that makes everything special to live here in Los Gatos. Los Gatos is an absolute gem in the Santa Clara Valley. It's unique in so many ways, and we have so many things we need to take care of: traffic, parking, financial issues, and our development.
Thank you, Larry. Heidi?
Hi, everyone. So I think most of the people on this call will go read the web pages of each of the candidates. So I wanted to share with you some things you won't find there. I came from nothing. My mom was a single school teacher parent, and I worked my way full-time through undergraduate and graduate school at Santa Clara University. Advanced through a decade-long career at Cisco, where I reached the executive level from starting as an intern. So I'm very hardworking. And Barbara Spector came to our Rotary Club a few weeks ago and talked about how her whole title of her talk was Things Change. She talked about how land use had always been the keystone of the town council's decision-making, but how that had become less and less over time, and it was regional awareness and connections that really mattered. So I am uniquely qualified among the candidates because I'm deeply regionally connected, and I've been endorsed by our state senator, Jim Bell. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Maria?
Hi, thank you. I'm really excited to be running for town council. I've lived in Los Gatos for 33 years, and I'm a former Silicon Valley chemist. As a scientist, I like to deal with facts. I've attended and spoken at council and planning commission meetings for the past 20 years and served on 4 transportation and housing commissions. I attend workshops and meetings, listening carefully, and I ask a lot of questions. I collaborated on the town's bicycle and pedestrian master plan and the recent downtown parking study. I understand the big picture as well as many of the little details. With regional issues like traffic increases, economic stresses, housing demands, Los Gatos needs thoughtful collaboration between merchants, residents, and town government. We can't stop change. We must decide how to respond. I'm ready to work hard with you and for you to benefit the present and future generations of Los Gatos. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Maria. And last, but certainly not least, Rob Stevenson.
Thanks, Matt. And thanks, Catherine and the Chamber for hosting the forum this evening. The town is going to be facing a lot of challenging issues over the next couple of years, starting with post-COVID economic recovery. Housing has always been an issue here in town, as is parking and traffic. We have an aging senior population. 18% of our population is over the age of 65, and those numbers are only going to grow. We have a growing homeless population that we need to address. It's going to take leaders in positions that aren't afraid to make decisions, that can gather solutions from stakeholders and move forward. I don't believe that we need to be sitting here in 10 years from now having the same discussions as to how to deal with traffic and how to deal with parking. I believe I'm the candidate to address those issues, and I look forward to working with the other candidates on the town council.
Great, thank you, Rob. Thank all of you. You did a great job with your opening statements, and you all held to the 1-minute opening. So congratulations on doing that. Really appreciate it. We're now going to jump into our questions. I was a little bit ahead of myself. I got too excited. I got too worked up. But now we're going to jump into the formal portion of our questions now that we've completed our opening statements. You'll have 2 minutes for your response. And here's the question. And the first answer will be Mary, and I'll let you know when you can start. The question is, now more than ever, the survival and preservation of small business is imperative. If elected, how specifically would you allocate town financial and personnel resources to benefit and encourage the retention and growth of small business? Mary, we'll start with you.
Well, first off, I think the right answer is I'm going to engage with the Chamber of Commerce. And along with that, as a small business owner in the downtown, I have a few ideas on that. First off, I would extend the temporary measures that were ratified by our local emergency act on a more permanent basis. Expanding outdoor space for dining and retail has proven to be a windfall. Parklets have enhanced our vibrancy. The umbrellas are colorful. The seating is inviting. The heaters are warm and inviting as well. Reserving parking spaces for curbside pickup allows for greater volume of sales and convenience to our our residents. And the town recently allocated 1.9 million to the chamber to help the downtown businesses survive. But we need to be fair to our whole business community, and that means our whole town, providing financial support and applying the same streamlining measures, allowing for fairness and consistency. I would also support zoning and outreach for professional office space in the downtown to replace the vacancies from lost retail. Workers dine locally and shop locally for convenience, allowing for more sales tax revenue and vitality for our business. I can testify to that reasoning. Everything is within walking distance of my office. I can grab coffee, ice cream, buy a card, buy a gift. I can pick up and drop off dry cleaning. I can eat lunch and dinner. And I can pick up items at a pharmacy or a hardware store. We truly have it all. We will survive and we will come back stronger than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Matthew?
Thank you. And I would like to just say that I think it's not just about recovery, but it's also about revival on the other side of the pandemic. Because we know that retail wasn't doing very well before the pandemic. And as we look across the whole town, I think there's some things that we really need to do immediately. First is to reallocate the 1.9 million from the beautification budget to serve small businesses. And I think we should also find another 3 million from other projects that are not as essential and put that into a revitalization fund, not to be used for individual businesses, but for business improvement projects across the whole town. Perhaps we can find more than that. The other thing I think we need to do is to find other funding sources via public-private partnerships, state and federal programs, to add to that revitalization fund. We should then stand up a revitalization committee with the best retail, financial, and entrepreneurial minds in town. This will create transparency and engage the community to provide input. The next thing I think we need to do is to accelerate the parking improvements that are called out in the Dixon report. And maybe there'll be time later to get into it, but basically it says that we need to direct people to parking rather than hope that they find it. We also should look at a new configuration for North Santa Cruz. We tried an experiment, but I think we could do better. We can look at best practices, look at realigning the sidewalk and the parking. But most importantly, we need, and I hear this from people in my listening sessions all the time, we need to make Los Gatos easier to do business with. It's not just about fees, it's more about speed, the handoffs between the various departments, and we need.
Thank you, Matthew. Michael? You're still muted, Michael.
I got excited, man.
That's okay. I understand how that works.
Until there's a vaccine, nothing will be normal. The pandemic is my number one concern, not just for business, but for people all over town. We focus on North Santa Cruz, and that's the smart thing to do. The parquettes are brilliant. They're keeping businesses alive. But I've walked the other business neighborhoods, Rin Cañada, Bellwood, Union, Los Gatos Boulevard, and the businesses north of Highway 9 who are not involved in the other North Santa Cruz benefits. They feel alienated. And I think we need to get out there and find out what they need. I've also been discussing with people cold and rain. Parquettes are wonderful in the sunshine, but we may need to box those parquettes, put them in tents, and then get approval from the fire department for heaters. And we need to plan that in advance. I don't see that happening right now. And the rains and the cold are not that far away. We need to resurrect, I think Matthew mentioned the Dixon report. We go beyond that and look at getting in a parking structure. We've talked about one behind Pizza My Heart. That would be 2-3 stories of parking and dwelling units on top. I think that's smart. Most importantly, as I said earlier, is listening. Listening is created by first having transparency in government. What the Planning Commission is doing, what Town Council is doing, find a way to get that to people so that they get engaged. In return, they get involved in helping us find solutions. A lot of my friends are suffering right now on North Santa Cruz and elsewhere. I'm concerned about the citizens and what we don't know about some of the people who shut up and won't come out. And I think we need to find a way to reach out to them too. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Larry?
I'm hearing a lot of good things because I agree with a lot of it. We do have a concerning factor coming up, but we don't have a vaccine yet. We don't have a turnaround or improvement of COVID other than moving from red or purple to red, which gives limitations. Downtown area is surviving right now, but it's at a very minimal. And as the weather changes, it's going to change the footprint on everything down there. And this is, Michael was talking about the rest of Los Gatos businesses, and it's equally important that they are included in all this. And I think they are being left out. And I've talked to a lot of people as well. The 1.9 that's been reallocated is a good benefit, but we're going to run out of that, and we're going to need more. And it's we need to have people come forward and tell us what they feel as well. And the parklets are working good. There's the parking areas that can be utilized better, and I've described this on my website as far as the parking management system is one idea. A parking structure is another. But people want to see our town with that charm. They want to be able to come here with ease and not have difficulties. A lot of them will turn away if it's very difficult. So I like to see the parking get more emphasized and done, because it's going on a long time that we haven't solved this problem. And that's what I like to work on. Thank you.
Heidi.
Well, one question I want to pose is, do we think a part-time woman leader could lead a department in the town staff? And I think the answer is yes. Monica Wren is a rock star. She doesn't want to go full-time, but she could lead a department. She needs more staff, in my opinion. I think we need to recruit minority-owned businesses, and I'm prepared to bring that up at the council to provide a grant to the chamber to recruit and retain minority-owned businesses. I do favor a one-way street so we can have expanded street dining and retail on North Santa Cruz. Although I would want to hear what the residents say about that. I cannot see the timer, Matt, so let me know. When we lobbied for the $2 million a few months ago, I said we need to review that in 6 months at the town council meeting. So that's coming up soon. We do need to review if we need more investment, and I'm prepared to make more investment. We really need to differentiate the town of Los Gatos. And I think the way to do that is to talk about the historical charm and the historical aspects of town. So that includes destination development, funding, and I'd like to see a shuttle to get people from downtown San Jose to Los Gatos via VTA light rail. So like a historical electric shuttle. So these are some of my ideas. The other thing is the town should be hopping 24/7. So we need to, areas where children can.
Heidi, we're losing your internet connection, so we lost your internet connection there for a second. Were you done with your answer?
Yeah, I wrapped it up because I got a phone call, sorry.
Oh, that's what happened there. Okay. All right. Thank you. Maria.
Hi, thank you. There's been a lot of great discussion and ideas, and I think we're all pretty much on the same page. I think before COVID hit, downtown and the businesses were kind of on the right trajectory. We had a town council that was being responsive to our businesses in the Chamber of Commerce, looking at options. We did the pilot program. The one-way downtown was actually nothing to do with traffic control. It had everything to do with testing out angle parking, which everyone decided looking at cars was not a great idea. With the Dixon parking study, I was one of the commissioners that did the legwork where we looked at occupancy in the parking lots and knew for a fact we have spaces, just not where people want to park. And so implementing the Dixon parking study will guide us through ways to use space that we already have, get employees parking in the right places, and have plenty of room for visitors without requiring parking on Santa Cruz Avenue. So we know that we can continue with the outdoor dining that everybody's been wanting. We know that we can look at an improved streetscape. We also need to look at some streamlining so that our outlying shopping districts, our neighborhood serving shopping districts, don't have prohibitions against outdoor dining, don't have prohibitions against full service out on the sidewalk. With the town, we have Monica Wren, who is our economic vitality manager, but it's not part of her job to recruit businesses, and the Chamber of Commerce can't do that. So I think we need to allocate some funding for an employee to do that. And then I really want to give kudos to the Chamber and the town for approving money for the light displays this winter. With so many events canceled and not being able to hold large gatherings, this is the right way to go, where we'll have some really beautiful light displays, both downtown and I'm sorry, that wasn't my, all right. Anyway, I don't know what interrupted me, but.
What interrupted you was me, but not on purpose. I'm in downtown San Jose and a motorcycle went screaming by my window, so I apologize for that. Would you like to finish your thought, Maria?
So I would say that I've been attending a lot of Chamber of Commerce and Town Council meetings where the parking study and vitality ideas have been brought up. And what will be essential to me if elected is to continue listening to the stakeholders and find out what kind of streamlining we need. How can the business respond? Because I don't think the Town Council should be dictating how this goes. I think we need to listen to the people.
Thank you. Last and certainly not least, Rob Stevenson. Rob.
Thank you. First, I think that the town did a great move by allocating the 1.9 million from the streetscapes. That you know, the economic assistance not only helped the local businesses stay open, in addition to streamlining and maybe waiving some of the requirements to move out onto the sidewalk or to have drive-through, you know, grocery stores. I think business owners were really innovative and figured out a way to survive. We could call this the trial period, you know, because by many estimates, we may see an uptick of COVID in the fall, and certainly with, you know, the winter season coming, it may not bode well for our outdoor seating if it's rainy and 45 degrees outside. So I think there needs to be further funds allocated for the economic relief for our local businesses. I'd also like to see less red tape when businesses are trying to renovate. You know, whether we're going from restaurant to retail or the other way around, I don't think that this should take months and months and months and thousands of dollars and resubmitted plans. I think this just stifles progress. I think the town can do a better job with that as well. As far as, you know, where the funds would come from, you know, I know there's extra funds in the general fund that could be reappropriated to help the downtown businesses. I'd like to see also a parking structure. I think that's long overdue. You know, Santa Cruz being one way with input from local residents, I think is also probably a pretty good idea.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to question 2, and I'm going to remind everybody, you do have 2 minutes to answer a question, but you don't have to use all 2 minutes to answer your question. So it's there for you to use at your discretion, and you can, you know, give your time away. Second question for tonight, and this question's going to start with Matthew. What would you do to revitalize business areas outside of the downtown area? Many of you spoke about downtown, but what about the rest of Los Gatos? What would you do to revitalize business areas outside of downtown San Jose? Starting with Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very critical point. We have a number of shopping districts that have a different character from each other. And so we have on the boulevard, we have quite a bit of retail that is a little bit more regional. And then in various areas like on Pollard or over near Union, we have some neighborhood shopping as well. There's no reason why they shouldn't be a part of this revitalization fund. And it shouldn't only honestly be chamber members. It needs to be all businesses across town. And I think we really need to bring in a lot of the thinking that we have in town. We have some retired business owners who've been tremendously successful over the years. They could offer advice as well to all of our folks. So I'd look at this as a whole town issue, not only a downtown issue. The other thing I want to bring up is that I think that with the trends in retail, we need to look to the future and we need to think about some alternative uses. One of which could be a mixed use innovation hub where we have space for startups of tech, biotech, and other places co-located with offices for investors and great restaurants, shops, etc., that would thrive as a result of bringing innovation into town and connecting Los Gatos better with Silicon Valley. I think those are opportunities for across town.
Great, thank you. Michael?
I've walked the outside business districts, and I mentioned earlier they feel alienated. I also did not find a majority of chamber members. And I think we need to reach out, whether it's through the chamber or through a special group, as Matthew mentioned, bring these people together and find out what they need. Somebody talked about outside dining. Apparently there's a restriction against that other than downtown. That needs to change. What was said about the tech centers, I also agree with. I'd like to have an environment where people who work here also get to live here. That includes teachers, police, firefighters, create a real community. But mostly it's reaching out to find out what they think and listen to what they say about what they need. Whether we do that with the chamber, which is quite possible, I think, or a new special committee. Reaching out to them is not happening right now, and we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Larry?
Yeah, well, they're hitting the points that I'd be hitting. So a lot of business over there that are not operational to full capacity. They do feel alienated. And my experience dealing with going out and visiting is more communication, listening to them, but more so who is listening and where's that message getting sent to, and what can be done afterwards. I think it's very important that we do communicate, listen, and be their voice when they need, and include them in with the downtown operations as well, because we are a town, we are a community, and we need to thrive with that. And that's the best way we can do is to represent them. That's why I'm running for council, and that's why I want to hear everybody what they have to say, so I can address that and present that to the to our town, and to revitalize them. And yeah, like Matthew was saying, each area has got its own uniqueness. Like Recanado, that's got its own shopping over there, even though we got a couple of vacancies over there that they've been there for a while. Like to see those get filled. And just like downtown, we're seeing all the vacancies there. It breaks my heart to see that. And we need to come up with a good plan to change that around and make it attractive for people to come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Heidi?
Well, one of the things that makes me unique among the candidates is I live, near Union and Los Gatos Almaden Road. So I shop at the Union Safeway and at Nob Hill and at Trader Joe's, probably 30% between each. And my friends run these businesses and these shopping centers. So I won't be doing a special listening session. This is where I live. Pretty much all the other candidates live in downtown. So my concern is that this is an issue during campaigning time, but then when we get into running the council, will they be living on the outskirts of town like I will? I think it's different business models on the outskirts. It's residents who are shopping, it's the grocery stores that are the anchors, and it's a completely different business model. They are allowed to do outdoor dining. They are doing it now. That's where I go to have breakfast, is Los Gatos Cafe East Side with outdoor dining. And that's important. We need to keep those parking waivers, the restriction waivers in place until they can get everybody back inside. I want to advocate with the county public health officer as well to open up indoor dining at 25% capacity. I think that's important for our restaurants. And I think that's about all I have to say on that question. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Heidi. Maria.
Hi, I don't know which is worse, going first or going last. So many good ideas have been stated. But as a 33-year resident and somebody who shops locally, I'm actually familiar with all of the shopping centers in town. Some of the limitations we have is downtown belongs to the town. The streets belong to the town. The usage in the parking lots and around our shopping centers are privately owned. And so we can do some encouragement, but I think there needs to be some work done with the landlords to loosen some of our regulations, but also make sure they understand the needs of their businesses. Let's see. I think one of the things that would really help some of the local shopping centers, in my experience, would be to work on better sidewalks. I was somebody who used to walk from downtown to Lunardi's and sometimes Nob Hill. And I would have to say the pedestrian experience is really unpleasant there. I've stood on those corners and done 2-hour slots of pedestrian and bike counts. And I can understand why a lot of people drive, because it doesn't feel safe or comfortable on the sidewalks. So I think one of the things we can do to help is make sure that we have a walkable, bikeable town where it feels comfortable and friendly and people will walk to their local shopping center. I think we can, as we move forward, look at different usages. As people walk and bike, we can probably loosen up those parking restrictions and use that space for more active, people-oriented activities. And I think moving to multi-use housing, where we can have mixed-use housing like along the boulevard, would but get people living closer to local shopping centers where they can walk and do their errands. So I think a lot of this comes down to transportation. A lot of it comes down to loosening restrictions. And a lot of it comes down to just making it more comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Rob?
I'm not a business owner in the town, so I won't suggest that I have the answers to fixing small businesses, especially stuck in a pandemic. I think reaching out to them and having a dialogue is going to be hugely important going forward. I've spoken to a bunch of business owners in the last couple of months, and some on the outskirts do feel disenfranchised. And so, if you're not downtown, that maybe the chamber is not as interested in their success. I'm not quite sure that's true. I would like to see the chamber maybe do some outreach, or and make these business owners feel like they are part of the town. They are, small businesses are the backbone of this town. Large businesses can set up shop and leave, and with little consequence. We saw it when the AT&T store pulled out of Maine and Santa Cruz. They were in shop for maybe a couple of months. Their metrics and their algorithms told them to pull up shop, and they can do that easily. And there's no ownership there. The small businesses are the backbone of our town, and I think that they need to be well included going forward.
Great, thank you, Rob. Mary?
Well, I'm a big fan of the multi-use, having retail, restaurant, maybe office on the bottom with housing on the second floor. So in trying to meet our affordable housing needs, I see opportunity along the boulevard to have this live, work, and play option that could work and revitalize business in that area. I know for years on the Planning Commission, I have heard testimony from residents wanting restaurants on that northern side of town. It seems to be lacking. I would also be in favor of establishing a revitalization committee to assess the needs and reach out to the community in our outlying business areas. Thank you.
Great, thank you. You've all completed questions 1 and 2. We're going to go on to question 3. And question 3, Michael, we're going to start with you. As an elected official, you'll be responsible for passing the 2040 general plan. As mandated by the state, Los Gatos will need to build 2,000 new affordable residential units. Acknowledging this fact and knowing there will be an impact to schools and traffic, how will you foster and expedite responsible development and still maintain the historical character of the town? Michael?
Well, Matt, I think you said 2,000 units to build, and it's not our job to build. The Planning Commission and the Town Council need to plan where those units could go. Building them is up to the developers, and the developers need to adhere to our standards and guidelines. One of the solutions that's being talked about by everybody, and it seems remarkably simple, are ADUs. If you've got a large plot of land and you want to put in an ADU, I think that should be fast-tracked. Otherwise, it should go through the normal process of adhering to residential standards and guidelines. We have been for years on the Planning Commission protecting and preserving and developing and growing consistent with the residential design guidelines, the hillside design guidelines, the commercial design guidelines. If we adhere to those and develop this plan, it'll be more difficult than it has been in the past, but it's not impossible. I'm encouraged that we can find ways to bring in especially affordable housing as that relates to increasing diversity. I'm a big proponent of that. We also have Section 8 housing in Los Gatos that folks don't talk about too much, federally assisted subsidies for people to live in town. That also increases diversity. So we have a lot of opportunities ahead of us. We need vision and we need new thinking. And I thank you for that.
Thank you, Michael. Larry?
Yeah, it's, Michael touched on it. We don't build houses. We identify the locations where it can be developed. And that's going to be challenging with 2000 because we went from 619 that's on the previous housing element to the current one. Am I on? Okay. And so that's going to be challenging to identify those areas, but it can be done. And if we use different places of landlocked properties or density housing, low income, below market pricing, maybe identify the NIBBs, we can accomplish getting those numbers. But those numbers, after 8 years, they're going to come out again, and they're going to be probably even more because it's based on our population, our businesses, and the income that we take in. So in the allocations for that, it's yeah, we're gonna have a job to identify those, and but I feel confident we can do that, working with the council and identifying with the general plan, and we'll just have to go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Heidi?
So I'm probably unique on this one too, because I have serious concerns about our general plan update process. I don't feel like the community engagement has been effective. And I don't see how it's possible to do real community engagement during wildfires where people are being evacuated and there's a serious pandemic going on. So I would actually like to stop the general plan development and relaunch it at such time when we have more opportunity to engage our entire town in the process. I don't think it's been a grassroots community process. It's been a room with a handful of people trying to come up with a plan. And they started with the old plan and made tweaks. I just don't think that's the right process to take. With regard to affordable housing, you know, our below market program does not have the tiers I would like to see. I would like to see moderate tier, low income, very low income, and extremely low income. I'd also like to see race added as a point within the below market program. I do not want to see increased density in our historical districts because like I said before, that really differentiates our town, the historical aspect of it. So I think we need to add density at the boulevard and in other areas that aren't part of the historical district. I think that's about all I want to say about that.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi. Maria.
Hi, thank you. In 2014, I served on the Housing Element Advisory Board, where we did have to plan for where we could build 619 units. And, you know, we're probably not going to even get to a little more than half of that, or 2/3. So planning for 2,000 units is going to require a big shift in mind. I have been attending all of the workshops and meetings that have been going on well before COVID started, well before the wildfires, and it is always difficult to get people to engage. I've sent out probably 200 emails to friends, and they all comment, well, go and tell us what you see. And I'm like, that's not the right answer. I think the biggest thing we have to do is really drive home the point that as we build this housing, it's going to look different than what we've got. This was brought up in many of the workshops. Los Gatos is 80% single family home and 20% multifamily. The new housing we have to build will be more like 80% multifamily and 20% single family. And to that end, we will have to look at height and density and multi-use. And I disagree a little bit that we shouldn't have density downtown. I live in a downtown neighborhood, and there's almost not a single block that you can walk on where there isn't some apartments around the corner or a fourplex. I've got a fourplex, I've got a bunch of apartments at the end of my block, and it just fits in. And I can't think of a more walkable place. So I think we need to be strategic. I think we need to make sure that we have housing everywhere. The state has already told us that ADUs are by right. We have no discretion over them. Neighbors have no say over it. I think we need to embrace the housing that we're going to build right now before the state takes more control from us. And I think we need to embrace it in a way that density actually creates walkability. We can do this the right way, and we cannot have a huge negative impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Rob.
2,000 homes is a very tall order for any community to try to squeeze in, especially one like ours. We're pushed up against the mountain here. We're out of space almost to build out. So I think we need to look at options to build up. I know the building code here in town precludes going very high. I think it's 35 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And that's not going to work going forward. The South 20 that has yet to be developed, or North 20, I believe, has yet to be developed. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is slated to be more commercial than residential. I'd like to see more residential on that plot of land. I think we're going to miss out on a large opportunity to take advantage of a lot of open space there if we don't. The historical district, I agree, is very ingrained in the town character. So I wouldn't advocate building up in that area. But yeah, that's the gist of my answer to that is we need to look at building up when we've run out of room to build out.
Thank you, Rob. Mary.
Thank you. As a planning commissioner, I have made decisions for affordable housing, and that would include the ADU ordinance and identifying affordable housing overlay zones. The town needs to comply with our state mandates for housing. We need to get our housing element certified by the state. 2,000 housing units is a tall order, but we've accommodated for planning with our affordable overlay zones. And we've also provided opportunity areas where we allow for multi-use with residential on the second and third floor, with the hope that it would be smaller units in size, condominiums, that we could add to our numbers that way. The hope is that we've got to deal with the balance with the neighborhood compatibility. And we hope that a developer will come forward and build these units in adherence to our town guidelines.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Matthew. Matthew, you're still muted. There you go.
Thank you. I've been through a few cycles on this, on affordable housing, as a planning commissioner and as a member of the Housing Element Advisory Board. And Los Gatos needs to do its share, yet we are a small town and we have a unique character and beauty. And it's critical for our town to survive and thrive to increase diversity, and not just racial diversity, but also economic diversity. And that's what this is about. But I disagree that we should brace ourselves for something that's going to be put on us and get ready to just accept it. I think that what we need to do is think about, from a planning perspective, what are the principles that we want to apply as a town, as an entire town, so that we don't get into a fight over neighborhood by neighborhood, which is what happened last time. We had a lot of criticism from folks who frankly didn't want housing in their neighborhood. And that then got us to think. And as a part of that process, what we did is we developed some principles like housing should be distributed equitably across town in those areas that can take it, that the housing should have a reasonable chance of actually getting built, not just planned. And so having that, I think, will be really helpful. On the doing side, there is something that we can do, and that is our below market program. It's limited, but it can be increased. And at a recent planning commission, I made several proposals that were adopted that allows more points for low and very low income, and recognizes that many of our folks are gig workers, and their income should be recognized as well.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. We'll go on to our fourth question now. And this question will start with Larry. You'll be the first to answer. Recently, the town council has passed a series of policies and reforms to streamline and simplify how the town does business. For example, 1, allowing restaurants and retail space. 2, allowing formula retail anywhere. 3, allowing live music by right before 10 p.m., subject to the town ordinance, etc. Do you like the direction the town is taking? Yes or no, and why?
Conditional use permits sometimes are too restrictive. I agree with a lot of the policies they have, but there is some that I don't. So yes, I do, but the reason that I do is it'll allow the businesses to thrive from it. But I think some businesses are just restricted from a lot of conditional use permits because there's a lot of restriction rules and ordinances that have been in place. We want to be able to preserve the peace with the community and the neighboring residents, but we also want to be able to let the downtown thrive with their success of having entertainment and their outdoor dining and so forth.
Thank you, Larry. Heidi.
I didn't like the allowing formula retail to come into town in an unlimited fashion. Now, before COVID, we had a lot of vacancies. So the town council, was thinking about how do we get those filled. So they allowed formula retail to come in. I would have limited that to 2 new formula retail establishments in town per year, because I think our small businesses really make Los Gatos unique. When you drive around the region and you shop around the region, you see the same shops everywhere. There's nothing unique or interesting about them. And our downtown really has cute boutique type shops that are one of a kind. The small businesses are really the engine that drive the character of downtown Los Gatos. I love our small businesses. So to that end, I really would like to make it easier for people to start small businesses, particularly retail and restaurants. I have a friend who wanted to open a wine tasting room. It was going to cost $10,000 because there was a sink to wash glasses. So, you know, I like the streamlining work that has already been started. I will agree to anything that will make it easier for small businesses to open within the town. Thanks.
Thank you, Heidi. Maria.
Thank you. I attended a good number of policy committee meetings where there was a lot of discussion and movement forward to the town to start streamlining a variety of restrictive issues downtown. And part of that was done with the idea that downtown needs to have the freedom to adapt to be competitive with any perceived or real threat from the North 40. With the idea that there was going to be more commercial moving or retail coming into the North 40, there was concern about what would happen downtown. And I think these have all been really good changes. As somebody who lives really close to a location that had the right to have live music with the entertainment policy, my neighbors and I were concerned. However, there was another policy made, the noise ordinance. And knowing that we have a noise ordinance has given us the ability to realize that we can call if the music is too loud, and it hasn't been an issue. The noise ordinance has allowed a lot of businesses to move forward with entertainment. So I think what we have to look at as we streamline things is how do we make sure that there's guardrails to make sure that it doesn't impose on the neighbors or residents without overly trying to micromanage the businesses. I don't think it's the role of the town council to try and second guess what's going to work economically. In terms of formula retail, that actually can be an attraction to downtown. I think a good mix, when we had J. Crew across from Time Out initially, that was a concern. But you know what? There were people that came here to shop there and then discovered Time Out. There's a variety of options you can think of, but I don't think anyone would argue that Lululemon or the Apple Store are a problem downtown. So I would say that looking at freeing up parking spaces, knowing that we can have more restaurants downtown, having more vitality, and listening to our businesses, the town council should be willing to let the economy figure out what's going to thrive downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Rob?
I'm in favor of some of the steps that the town council has taken. I think live music certainly is you know, if we don't adapt, we're going to fall behind some of our neighboring towns, and people will go elsewhere to find the entertainment or the you know, the restaurants, the venues that they seek. So either bring it here or we're going to lose folks. We'll leave, you know, economic opportunities and money on the table, essentially. As far as formula retail, kind of in agreement with Maria, the big box stores, you know, somebody comes into town to frequent one of these and they may grab lunch. They may go across the street and shop at one of our small businesses. I think we need to do it responsibly and you know, limit the number of the big box stores that come in, because I do think the small businesses are the backbone of the town.
Great, thank you, Rob. Mary?
I would have to agree that the streamlining has been very effective. It has allowed us to adapt to a changing retail environment. I see that the outdoor dining has been a big plus. It's added so much vibrancy down here. The noise ordinance has proven to be a balancing act for any resident that might be concerned with any loud music that might impede on their security at night. So I'm actually glad that we did pass that ordinance. I had some concerns about it at the time with the toll house. But as Maria Risto said, as being a resident in that area, it has not impacted the neighborhood. Now, as far as formula retail goes, I have some pros and cons as far as how I feel about that. First off, formula can provide an anchor store. It can provide synergy with other retail establishments, but draw in customers being that it's formula. That being said, I'm concerned about the independent businesses that we have downtown. And these are long-time established community members, and they provide unique and personalized customer experiences with their products. They make Los Gatos special, and unlike other towns that have typical strip malls. So we really need to rethink the formula, how we're going to deal with it going forward. Should we look at it on a percentage basis, or should we look at it as far as square footage and size and how it might impact our existing independent stores and owners? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Matthew.
Thank you. Maria is right that the loosening of restrictions in the downtown was a result of the coming North 40 retail development. I would go a little further and say that when the phase 2, the north part of the North 40 is developed per the zoning, it will cause an enormous problem for our downtown. And I think we need to do more to protect not only our downtown, but our businesses elsewhere. I was one of the early and people in opposition to uncontrolled development on the North 40. I'm not against development. I voted against the development twice a few years ago, and just 2 nights ago, I again led opposition to the North 40 as it's currently proposed. We put some restrictions on it, but they were in the North 40 specific plan where I chaired that group. However, those restrictions were stripped out by the council. And so when it comes online, as it's currently zoned, which is for a massive retail development, it will cause enormous disruption to our downtown and other areas. So again, I'm not against development, but I think we need to level the playing field. And so what I think we need to do is provide some further parking solutions, consider relaxing CUPs further in other places, conditional use permits that is, and also encourage and incentivize synergistic retail activity and develop online experiential retail of the future in other areas, and to further develop the sense of character for the boulevard and other places within town as this starts to come online.
Thank you, Matthew. And now Michael.
I'm a bit old school when it comes to streamlining. We had outstanding standards and guidelines that I've mentioned before, and they worked for us for a long time. The pandemic gives fuel to streamlining, and that's probably a good thing for the time being. I like what folks said about percentage of formula retail, square foot restrictions on formula retail, because the issue with streamlining downtown and the other business districts and the what I call now the North 20 is competition. I think Matthew covered it. You know, I would like some clauses on non-compete, whether it's in commercial standards and guidelines or a further development of the specific plan. We have a specific plan for the North 20. It's not outlined to the degree where it can't be modified, but there is a specific plan in place. And if I could do anything in modification of that, I would put in words like non-compete. There's no reason to sacrifice the downtown or any other district for profits on the North 20. It concerns me a great deal. When I was on planning commission and things would get approved that I didn't like, the council person at that time was Mike Wasserman. And he said to me, Mike, you lost that one. But what I want you to do is come back a year later and take a look at it. And then make a new judgment. He's right. He's right 4 to 5 times. So these new ideas I may need to be more flexible on and take a look at things as they develop and then decide what needs to be kept and what needs to be changed. But first I have to study the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We will now move on to question 5. And we were going to have 6 questions in this first formal round, but I'm going to skip question 6 because you've actually all touched on it. So it's actually good news for all of you. So we'll get to our lightning round a little quicker. But first, we're going to have question 5. And this is about the current state of the economy. and the economic climate and its impacts on city finances. Given the current pandemic and the economic slowdown due to COVID-19, the town will very likely experience budget challenges moving forward. City staff recently received pay increases. You're likely to see less sales tax revenue in the coming months and years, and you have increased unfunded pension liabilities. As a town council member, how will you handle this possible budget deficit, and how will you prioritize the dollars you will have? And we'll start with Heidi.
Well, I think it's a little bit of a misperception that the town budget is in serious trouble. We annexed a number of pockets over the past few months. So we have an additional $1 million coming in, about $1 million coming in from that. Our sales tax revenue largely comes from the grocery stores in town, as opposed to neighbors like Saratoga, where they have, one small grocery store. So they have very little, they had very little increase in income from COVID, like we did in Los Gatos when everybody started grocery shopping. The property taxes are going to be flat to pretty much flat is what we're hearing from the tax assessor. Now, if Schools and Communities First passes, we'll have an entirely different conversation. We'll actually see, substantially increased revenues. So that's a big if. It's polling at about 50-50 right now. So having said all of that, I do agree that the unfunded pension liabilities are extremely concerning. I've attended the Finance Committee meetings. If we pay the amounts that CalPERS is requiring, so just our basic payments, it's almost like a credit card minimum payment, our total debt will increase over time, and it has increased over time. So I'm a big fan of not carrying debt in my personal life, and I'm a conservative fiscal manager. So I would bring that to the town, and I would like to see us focus on paying down our unfunded pension liability considerably more quickly than what CalPERS would have us do. In Saratoga, they have it planned to have it all paid down by 2030, I believe. So I think we need to pick a date by which we'll have that paid off, increase our pension payments, and get it taken care of. I don't want to see a cut to any existing services. How much time do I have, Matt? I can't see the timer.
About 2 seconds.
Never mind. I'll just wrap it up there, but I could talk for a long time about the budget. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Maria.
Oops. Hi. Well, Heidi kind of hit on some of the issues around the budget. I mean, knowing that the vast majority of our town revenue comes from property taxes, and our property taxes are not expected to go down, that is the good news. Places like Palo Alto, which bring in a huge amount of income from their shopping malls and their hotels, are really taking a hit. Our TOT, our transient occupancy tax that comes from the hotels, is not a very big part of our budget. So we'll take a hit there. Our sales tax has definitely gone down a bit, but I think the good news is our staff has remained fairly lean since the last recession. The bad news is if we have to cut, that'll really hurt. But I think what I would be looking at for priorities is a good, robust discussion with all of the stakeholders. And we have a present finance committee, and it could be revamped if the initiative passes. But I think the finance committee can play a role in helping us prioritize what's going on. And there was something else, and I've got COVID brain. What was I going to say? The other thing that one of the things I would keep as a priority is we have a lot of grants coming in for transportation and connectivity issues. And I would want to keep funding that because we have leveraged a small amount of money on our part to bring in about $14 million in grants right now. And I think it's important long-term to pursue those projects and keep that going. Keeping our roads up, getting the bike lanes and the sidewalks in are long-term investments. So I would be looking to see what are some short-term things we could put off if we really have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Rob.
Just to follow real quick on Maria's point with continuing infrastructure upgrades for roads and trails. I think that's the right way to go. We're going to have a growing population, and our infrastructure needs to keep up with it. We have lost sales tax dollars, but we also annexed, several. I think it was almost 30 pockets around town. So we did see an increase, or will see an increase in property tax funds there. Paying down the unfunded pensions, I think, should be a priority. At the current interest rate, that number just grows astronomically, and the sooner we can get ahead of that, the better we're all going to be. I'd like to see either excess funds or funds from the general fund, perhaps reinvested into a whether it's a mutual fund or something that doesn't have a lock-in period, where we can put these funds that are just sitting there and they can actually start working for the town. That's going to be important as we look for creative ways to pay down the unfunded pension. I also think Measure A is important, to have financial experts advising the council as to, where money should be going and how we should be solving some of these problems.
Thank you, Rob. Mary?
Thank you. The town has certified our budget as being balanced, and we do maintain a AAA rating. But I understand the challenges with balancing competing policy interests in determining how our tax dollars are spent. I also understand the concern from lost sales tax revenue and property tax from the economic downturn. In consideration of the $60 million in pension liabilities that are unfunded, we basically have two options. You either decrease services or you increase taxes. Our biggest expense is the police department. Now, I'm going to be hard pressed to reduce those services. I consider public safety the first job of any government. My solution is to take an aggressive stance on paying down our debt and seek assistance from our finance committee or commission, whatever may be, as a result of the measure. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Matthew?
Thank you. As a former partner at Ernst & Young and Deloitte for over 20 years, I've dealt with many, many financial challenges and helped organizations to deal with financial adversity. The town is facing a very significant issue that has not yet been delineated. So the state is facing a $54 billion deficit at this point, but that could change. That completely follows the trajectory of the pandemic and the economic situation behind that. So I think that it's really essential that we utilize these senior financial executives who've been willing to help with their brainpower for the town to deal with this situation. And what we really need to do is develop some scenarios and look at what happens if the virus continues and we have a significant shortfall, or what happens if, due to having a vaccine or whatever, things improve more dramatically. We need to do the planning ahead of time. We don't want to get caught flat-footed with a major deficit and then have to do what Palo Alto and some other places have done, which is to decide between closing a library or closing a fire station. So that is the main thing. The other thing which you asked about was the unfunded pension liability. And it's actually a bigger problem than we are thinking about. Moody's is calculating it at $150 million because CalPERS is using an artificially high return rate. And so we need to start doing some serious capital allocation and do some long-term planning, not just doing one-off payments of our unfunded liabilities.
Thank you, Matthew. Michael?
As I understand it, some people think we're paying pensions of our police. We're not. We're sending money to Sacramento, who then in turn sends money to the retirees that used to work for the government in one capacity or another. That's where we get into trouble, because they're running out of money and they're going to hit on us for more money. As Matthew mentioned, they had unrealistic goals in their plan. I think their plan was to get a 7% return, Sacramento. get a 7% return on their money. They're getting like 1.2. So the deficit is going to continue growing. I've been managing other people's money for almost 40 years. We develop financial plans. We get people that are in trouble. We get them out of trouble. I'll tell you this, it's complicated. And as Mary alluded, Measure A. If Measure A doesn't pass, I will try and create a financial commission. The Finance Committee is being misused, unheard, unlistened to, and there are experts on that committee that could be helping us. We don't have financial experts on town council. And why not listen to the financial experts who are volunteering their own time to put some more teeth into their function? I would create a financial commission similar to the planning commission. And I'd have the selection similar to the planning commission. I think we need those folks and we need to listen. And we need, above all, we need transparency. Steve Conway is one of the most brilliant financial managers in the state. He wins the state award every year. But I don't know that people know what he needs. I don't know that people know what he's thinking. And that's where we have to communicate to people. Have the people understand the problem we're in, and we'll get more support from them in the future when maybe we have to take some austere moves to keep us afloat. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And last for this question is Larry.
Well, the financials, number one problem is that unfunded pension liability. Now, the funded pensions are prepaid and we get discounted on that. But the unfunded pension liabilities came about when there was a bad investment, and most all the cities throughout all of California that belong to it got dinged for it, and we're included with it. There's an interest rate, and that deficit keeps climbing and climbing, and it's going to get out of control. We have a balanced budget that was approved, but sustainability budget is going to be something that's we need some experts involved, and that's why I'm in favor of Measure A. Get these experts online so they can actually advise the council, advise our our finance directors and commissions, and let everybody know what their expertise shows in that manner, and the transparency to the community, because a lot of people don't really know what our budgetary problems are. Defunding police, I would never go for that, because we need law and order. We need our police department. We have it established, and we need to maintain it. Now, their budget and their payrolls and all are gone through the union in a contractual basis with the town, and so when that gets accepted and ratified, that's what's put in place. But yeah, my number one item that is concerning is the unfunded pensions, and we need to look at creative ways and the experts to tell us what will work and what could be projected down the future, so we have sustainable budgets. Thank you.
So I'm going to change things up a little bit. I want a one-word answer from all of you. You can take all of yourselves off mute right now, and I'm going to do this alphabetically. I'm changing things up, moderator perspective, right? So you all kind of talk about the finances of the town, and some of you mentioned Measure A. Yes or no for Measure A, and I'm going to do this alphabetically. Mary. Yes or no? Measure.
I'm declined to answer.
Okay. Matthew.
Voters.
Michael.
I would not want to influence anyone's vote on this. I want to hear what they think. There's a lot of good points in Measure A, but I'm not going to encourage anybody else. I'm meeting with Jack on.
Thank you, Michael.
Discuss
Larry.
Yes.
Heidi.
Yes.
Maria.
No.
Rob.
Yes.
Okay, I got everybody. Threw that in there just for the heck of it. Let's get back. We're going to do the lightning round. We're going to pick up the speed a little bit. You got 30 seconds to answer this question. We're going to do three lightning round questions. These can be kind of tough. Hopefully some of you have already thought about these, but the first one is a ballot measure. It's on the ballot. It's just not in the city of San Jose, but it's the town of Los Gatos, but it's on the state ballot. And Californians are being asked to vote for or against this ballot measure. It's one of the most contentious ballot measures in our time, Proposition 15. It's also called the split roll. and it would amend provisions of Prop 13, increasing taxes on business and consumers. Are you for or against Prop 15, and why? In 30 seconds or less, and we'll start with Maria.
Actually, I'm opposed to it. 2 years ago, I was for it. I feel like coming to California from Illinois, Prop 13 is just absolutely mind-boggling to me in terms of the disparity of how people pay property taxes. However, right now with COVID, the idea that we might increase the burden on property owners, which we absolutely know will get passed through to businesses, is not a great idea. So I'm not in favor of it right now.
Great, thank you. Rob?
No, I'm not in favor. Californians are overtaxed as it is. I've bought 2 homes here in the last 5 years. I know all too well how expensive property taxes can be, and I'm a no.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, again, this is for the voters to decide. I do have very strong concerns about the proposition that I may mention, that small businesses are technically exempt, but large landlords, if it passes, would end up passing their costs on to the tenants and customers of small business. But I'm going to let the voters decide this one as well.
Thank you. Matthew?
I agree. I believe that the ballot initiatives in California are a unique way for the voters to speak directly on an issue, and that they should do that. And the ballot initiative process often involves distortions and various kinds of things, that up is down and down is up. And so I think the voters need to read very carefully and then vote on it.
Thank you. Michael?
I agree. Again, not to tell them how to vote by suggesting what I'm going to do. I want to know how they want to vote. Having said that, the whole country and the state and the county and the town are in financial trouble. And it's going to hurt. But we have to find tax revenue from somewhere. This is bad timing to have this go into effect now before we have a vaccine. I'd like to see something like this go in after we've got the vaccine and we're getting healthier again, because we've got a lot of debt to pay.
Thank you. Larry?
I'm opposed to it. Born and raised in this valley, my family's owned properties, and Prop 13 protected them. Last year I lost my grandmother, but she lived in the same house they built. My grandfather and her built in 1952. If she had to be assessed and pay on these taxes, she would have to leave California. I think a lot of people here would be affected by it, and I think it's not right. They've lived and they worked hard to have what they have. That's why I'm opposing it.
Thank you, Larry. Heidi, last.
Well, it's for commercial, not residential, first of all. If you're wearing your California hat, you vote yes. If you're wearing your Los Gatos hat, you vote no. This will impact our downtown businesses disproportionately more than any other city in Santa Clara County. At the same time, our schools will receive very little income from it. So for the town of Los Gatos, it's horrible. But if you want to think about education across the state, fire, county, city, and the funding that's needed there, you vote yes.
What hat are you wearing, Heidi?
Well, I'm running for Los Gatos Town Council.
Okay,
so
couldn't resist
no.
that one. All right, we're gonna go to another lightning round question. This one's probably, that last one I thought was easy. This one's tough, especially to do in 30 seconds or less, but it'll give you an idea of what you're thinking. We can all agree probably Los Gatos has a little problem with summer cut-through traffic. Many solutions have been tried, and many have been unsuccessful. Senator Bell supports coordinated efforts with the state and local entities to find some solutions. He has proposed an auxiliary lane on Highway 17. Do you support this proposal? Yes or no, and why? In 30 seconds or less. And we'll start with Rob.
I do support widening Highway 17. I think the state of California has some responsibility, not only to our downtown businesses, but also to the public safety aspect of this. During Summer Beach traffic, if our side roads are clogged and there's a fire that comes over the hill, similar to the one that was in Santa Cruz County last month, our residents are going to be in a world of hurt trying to egress off of the hillsides. So yes, It may take 10 years, but 10 years is going to come and go anyway. And we need to get started now.
Thank you. Mary?
We need to widen those lanes, most definitely. It would help our downtown businesses. Shoppers go elsewhere to avoid the traffic standstill. Residents are on house lockdown. First responders are impeded in the event of an emergency, whether it be medical or for a wildfire evacuation route. So most definitely, I am in support.
Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, I support it as well. And to me, it isn't only the safety of people going up and down there, but it's also just reconfiguring that dangerous piece of highway into something that is modern and up to existing standards. For that reason alone, I would support it.
Thank you. Michael?
I support it as a concept that we should have had years ago. What I worry about now is when you get to the end of the widened lanes, you have another bottleneck. And that'll be north of Lexington, I imagine, or worse if they're only going to go to Highway 9. I want to put in a plug for AB 2908 real quick. This is a bill being carried by Evan Lowe that would prohibit Waze and other devices that tell people to cut through town. It would do so by prohibiting them to do that within 1 mile of emergency.
I'm going to interrupt you because we have 30 seconds for that one, but you got your plug in there for the bill. Larry?
It's good, Michael. Okay, so widening up Highway 17, I've been in full support of that all along. Anything to help on Highway 17. One of the other things I like to see done with that is the restriction timeframes for truckers that go over Highway 17. It's a big contributing factor to our backups that go over the hill. It's a very steep, dangerous roadway to go on, and widening up the lanes and putting some type of restriction for the truckers is what I would love to see happen.
Thank you. Heidi?
Jim Bell has endorsed my candidacy for Los Gatos Town Council largely because of my engagement on the beach traffic issue. I'm currently advocating for a JPA between Santa Cruz County and Santa Clara County to do a feasibility study for buses, rail, special lanes. I also want to get the on-ramp metering lights enabled in the surrounding area to push the traffic out into the region so it's not clumping up in Los Gatos. Do I support the widening of the median? Yes, but it won't solve the problem. We need to do other regional things, which I'm advocating for actively.
Thank you. Maria?
Yes, thank you. I'm in favor of it. This is just a small measure. I attended the town council meetings and the Chamber of Commerce meetings with Senator Bell in 2017. And the discussion is just to continue that lane from Lark to Highway 9. However, we know as soon as people see brake lights, they'll often jump off at Lark. And so this would help traffic in the town. In addition, by agreeing to that, Caltrans will be reconfiguring the Highway 9 and Highway 17 interchange, making that safer for all users, cars, bikes, and pedestrians. Thank you.
All right, this is our last question of the night before we do closing statements, and I won't forget we'll do closing statements. And so I've been a Chamber of Commerce executive for 18 years in Sacramento and in here, and this is a Chamber of Commerce forum. So I've worked in a couple separate regions. I've worked here. I've personally seen and experienced where many government and municipalities have long processes for planning, approval of projects. Planning commission review takes a long time, and ultimately the process just takes too long, costing everyone valuable time and money. How would you, if elected, make the approval process for business more efficient? And I will start with Mary. And you got 30 seconds, so this is a killer, so you better talk fast.
All right, so on the Planning Commission, we follow certain guidelines and ordinances that are set forth that we adhere to as a quasi-judicial commission. Residential design guidelines, hillside standard and design guidelines, different planning ordinances. We look for neighborhood compatibility. We have residents that complain about houses being too bulky, invading their privacy, so it's a real balancing act. So if something needs to be resolved, it's got to start with the town changing their ordinances and design guidelines. Thank you.
Fantastic, and in 28 seconds, that's amazing. I don't know about the content of the answer, but the timing was great. Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. There are two parts to this. First is the rules and regulations, and I think we need to survey existing relatable towns and adopt the best practices so that we're competitive. Secondly, we need to look at the process and the execution. And in order to do that, we have handoffs between various departments. We need to set some baseline metrics and measure if we're going to improve.
Great, thank you. Michael.
I think the question was the approval process for business. As Mary said, we've got commercial standards and guidelines. And again, old school, they work pretty well for us. That doesn't mean, well, what it does mean is we need to reach out to those businesses to see what they want, to see if these guidelines still work. What we've got, and I love my town, what we've got has worked so far. That doesn't mean it could be improved, doesn't mean it doesn't have to change with the times, but so far it's been so good.
Thank you. Larry.
The old saying is don't break or try to fix something that's not broke. If the old system works, then that's great. But I think we can adapt to maybe more streamlining that would benefit the businesses if we can get their process faster. And if there's anything that needs to be changed for rules, that's something that they can bring to us, and we can actually look at and see if we can formulate something to help them out.
Thank you. Heidi.
We need to have town-sponsored pre-planning sessions for what the residents want to see in the large undeveloped areas so that developers can come in and do what we want versus waiting till the orange tent poles go up. We need to get Monica Wren more staff. A part-time economic development person is not enough. We need to have a council that realizes the benefits of business, and we need to do away with the us versus them attitude that's existed for decades in Los Gatos. We need partnerships. So elect partners on your council. That's how we solve the problem.
Thank you. Maria.
Thank you. I think the town council has started to try to move in that direction. I mean, we have an economic vitality manager. I think we need to add somebody or add the role of recruiting businesses to that. There have been some streamlining where processes projects instead of going to the planning commission can go to DRC under certain guidelines. It would be great to collaborate with the business community and the chamber to find out if that's sufficient. Going to the planning commission can be important. It's also incredibly time consuming and expensive, and time is money, so it gets really expensive. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob.
I think it's important to take a look at the town staffing and make sure that we have appropriate staff to handle the workload that comes in. Also, the standards and guidelines. If they need to be reviewed, then there needs to be an open forum for residents and business owners who have gone through this process to provide feedback. I think there's plenty of people that have done this before, and I'm sure they have a whole lot to say about the way this process works.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining in the lightning round there. We're now going to conclude with closing statements, and you'll all have 1 minute to make a closing statement. You don't have to use the entire minute, but you can. And we said we'd start alphabetically, and we will do that again. So Mary, you go ahead and start.
Thank you. Los Gatos needs leadership skilled in business, finance, and land use. For long-term residents, I have experienced 45 years of change to our business environment, actually improving our quality of life. As a planning commissioner, I have made decisions balancing the interests of the town with the overall interests of the community. As a small business owner in the downtown, I have the experience to make decisions enhancing our economic vibrancy. I care about Los Gatos. I'm dedicated to protecting and serving families and businesses. And most definitely, without doubt, these are challenging times for Los Gatos. We all need to rally together to shop local, dine local, and to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Matthew.
So what will I do for Los Gatos? As a council member, perhaps the most important thing is that I will be available to you, answering your calls, listening to your ideas and your concerns. That's why I've done listening sessions, and that's why I make my number available. I'm an experienced business leader, former partner, Deloitte and Ernst & Young, CEO of a biotech consulting firm, founder of a software bioinformatics company, and I currently devote many hours each week to town service, emergency communications and preparation, reviewing Planning Commission and historic preservation applications, and leading on issues such as North 40 development. My wife, Qui, and I chose Los Gatos 34 years ago as a wonderful place to raise our 2 children, and I remain committed to strengthening the future of Los Gatos. I've earned the endorsement of 5 former mayors and the majority of the planning commissioners, and I'm asking for your vote to continue to work for our future.
Thank you, Matthew. Michael.
As I've said before, we need to deal with this pandemic. Economic vitality of all businesses and all of our citizens. We need to take better care of them other than just the downtown. Transparency is crucial. We don't have it right now. And if we can find a media or a medium like KCAT and communicate with people, I think that would encourage them to engage with us and let us know what they are thinking and feeling right now, what they're afraid of. We need to listen. To that end, I would, if elected, I'll hold office hours. Third concern is finance. As I said, if the Measure A fails and if I get elected, I will do all possible to beef up the finance committee and turn it into a finance commission so those experts can help our town deal with the shortfalls and the shortcomings we're going to be facing. It's not going to be pretty. We've gotten through it before. We'll get through it again. I love my town.
Thank you, Michael. Larry.
November 3rd is election day, and the voting will start early this year. It's kind of unique. I feel that the pandemic that we've been dealing with is about unprecedented times. Los Gatos citizens have helped to keep the curve down, the pandemic, and we're trying to get through this. I'd like to say that there's something that you can do to help make all this happen is just get out there and vote. I'm here to work for you. I want to work for you very hard and every day. So I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd and get those ballots in. And if you want more information, feel free to please go to my website, larrymaggio.com. I'm posting videos. I'm posting a lot of information constantly on there. And I look forward to working with the town once elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Now, Heidi.
Well, you guys, I'm scared to death. I don't know about you, but I have insomnia going on. I mean, there is just so much anxiety and uncertainty based on COVID. And what I want you to think about is what Barbara Spector said at Rotary a few weeks ago. Things change. The responsibilities of the town council used to be all around land use. Now we're addressing COVID. Who would have seen that coming? So I'm running with 3 priorities: quality of life, sustainability and safety, and prudent financial management. And under those include quality of life is the beach traffic issue. Nobody's worked harder on that than I have. That's why I have Jim Bell's endorsement. I really want to address the lack of funding for seniors in our town. They're coming up to 30%, and we have virtually no funding for seniors programs. That has to change. So I want to implement a seniors commission. And then economic development, which we've talked a lot about here. Under sustainability, we need to update the sustainability plan, really fund wildfire preparation, which we haven't done yet. And I'm out of time, but I have.
We'll go to your website, Heidi. We'll check it out. Maria.
Thank you. I know this community. I'm a longtime resident and volunteer dedicated to making Los Gatos better for all residents and business owners. Before the COVID pandemic, the town was collaborating with businesses in the chamber to promote outdoor dining, make plans for a better streetscape, and solve our parking problems. This forward thinking has allowed us to respond quickly ahead of many other communities to support our businesses in these difficult times. We have a good start, but there's more work to do. Los Gatos is an evolving and vibrant community with a need to embrace the future. To adapt to the changing economic landscape requires collaboration and the willingness to try new ideas. I'm excited for the possibilities, and I'm ready to be a partner to the business community for the benefit of the entire town. Local business owners, school board members, town commissioners, young adults, and your neighbors have endorsed me because I'm a dedicated, collaborative, independent, and informed leader. Vote for me, and I will work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And last, Rob Stevenson.
Sure. November 3rd, voters are going to have the opportunity to make a pretty big choice here in town, and that's reshaping the town council as it's appeared for the last many years. I think diversity and experience and background is going to play a huge part in that. And I think that I bring a lot to the table there. So I'll keep it short. I hope look forward to your vote.
Thank you, Rob. Brevity is always good and appreciated late in the evening. Thank you very much. I want to thank all of our candidates for being part of the Los Gatos Town Council Candidate Forum presented by the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank all of you for being here and those who watched online. The candidates vying for the it's the 5 candidates vying for the 2 4-year terms. Matthew Hudes, Michael Kane, Larry Maggio, Heidi Owens, and Mary Ristow. And the 2 candidates vying for the 1 open 2-year term, Mary Badami and Rob Stevenson. Give them all a virtual round of applause for their participation tonight. I know there is maybe a screen share with voting resources that's going to be popped up here. And on the screen, those voter resources are there, and a valuable way for you to get out voter registration, polling places, voting timelines, state and local proposition measures, all kinds of stuff. You go to the Los Gatos website, you can go to the SVO website, you can find out about all the propositions and everything that's on the ballot and everything you want to learn about. There's also a bunch of resources for COVID-19 out there and how your business can operate the Los Gatos Chamber and at the SVO. I want to encourage you all to get out there and vote this election, but only vote once. You can go in person and you can mail in, but if you do mail, I would mail early. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. Really appreciate it. And I usually end with go out and have a prosperous day, but maybe perhaps you go out and have a glass of wine or something at a local Los Gatos venue. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chamber.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure.
Thank you.